This video is brought to you by Soundcore. The Soundcore Sleep A30 are a beast of a sleep earbud. They're the first sleep earbud to use active noise cancelling. And you get tons of features: sleep tracking, a personal alarm, dynamic snore masking is very interesting, and brainwave audio, which is all here to help you fall asleep and also stay asleep. Now these buds are currently on Kickstarter for a September release. So be sure to sign up with my link down below, because if you're getting there early, you're gonna get some solid discounts up to 60% off. Now the buds that I have in testing are the beta version, so it says alpha on them, but this is what the case will look like when they are released. Now a few things to get out of the way before we run into how well these work when sleeping. We'll start with connectivity here. So it's just basic Bluetooth 5.3 with SBC and AAC for your codecs. You don't get multi-point connection, so you can only have one device connected to the buds at the same time. For a sleep earbud, kind of makes sense. Now video latency is completely fine. You could even use these when gaming and it's pretty decent. And the overall connection has been solid. I noticed no dropouts, and you can use these basically like any true wireless earbud. The only thing they don't have is microphones for phone calls. You can still take a call with them and hear the audio through the earbud, but you'll have to use a microphone on your phone. This is completely fair. You can only squeeze so much tech into a tiny bud. You also don't get any dust or water resistance on the earbuds. Fair enough. Again, they're a sleeping earbud. And I'll touch on the sound quality now as well. For a tiny earbud, they sound pretty powerful. It's a slightly boomy bass response. You get some nice deep sub-bass rumble. It's kind of the classic Soundcore tuning. The mids aren't recessed too much, not an amazing mid-range, but vocals are nice and clear. And the treble has some nice detail. There's some nice upper treble sparkle. Overall, it sounds pretty decent for such a compact bud. I also like that at the lowest volume, the buds are pretty quiet, because I like to listen to very low level music to help me get to sleep. But if you want to crank these buds, they go pretty loud when you get past 80% volume. And I did notice they sound a bit bassier at those high volumes. Not necessarily a bad thing, just something I noticed. But at 60% volume and below, it's overall a pretty balanced sound. And you do need the sound to be slightly bass boosted at lower volumes, because naturally we hear less bass and also less treble. So they sound pretty rich at those low volumes. But now the main question you're probably asking is, can you sleep a full night with these buds in your ears, and are you able to sleep on your side? Now, as always, fit is going to be different for everyone, but for me, I can sleep a full night and also sleep on my side. A huge thing, because I cannot do this with any earbud, whether it's an in-earbud, an open earbud, a half in-ear earbud. I always read the comments, people sleeping with buds like AirPods. I just don't know how people do it, but this is the only bud where I can actually sleep on my side. And I think they are more comfortable than their previous model, the Sleep A20. That's because the buds are 7% slimmer. You can sort of see it there. I mean, it's not a huge difference, but the main thing with the Sleep earbud is how thin you can get it. So it's impressive they made it a bit thinner. You also get tons of ear tips included. So there's 4 sizes of silicone ear tips, 3 sizes of memory foam, and 3 wingtip sizes as well. So for any ear shape or size, these buds should fit very well. For me, my pretty large ears, the medium wing actually work the best. And in my left ear, I use the medium ear tip, and my right ear, I use a large ear tip. So be sure to play around with multiple sizes. Now the wings work really well here. They're incredibly comfortable, but they just lock the bud in place throughout my entire night. I move around a ton, and not once did either of the buds fall out of my ears, which with regular sleeping earbuds always happens. What I like about the A30 as well is when I'm lying on my side, the sound quality doesn't change too much. I remember this with the old model, the Soundcore Sleep A10. If I sleep on my side, the bud will kind of like push and move out of place, and then it was really loud in one ear, my other ear is kind of quiet. Where with the A30, I don't really notice that too much. It still happens a little bit, that's expected because there's pressure on one ear, but it's very minimal. Now in terms of comfort, when I'm lying on my side, like there's still something in your ear. You're gonna feel not really necessarily the ear tip, but just the hard plastic of the earbud that houses all the internals. Now I do feel it more on my left ear, just for whatever reason. Our ears are not gonna be made exactly the same. So when I'm lying on my left side, I do feel it a little bit. The first night I used them, it was slightly distracting, but the second night, I think I kind of got used to it. And again, keep in mind, my ears are very sensitive to like sleeping on my side. I can't do it with any earbud. So I was pretty impressed. I could sleep a full night now and there's no issues. But just being realistic here, that you are gonna feel it slightly when you're lying on your side. This will depend on your ear, how soft your pillow is, but just don't expect to not feel anything at all. Now I did try out the foam ear tips and they just didn't really seem to work well for me. It was a little bit too uncomfortable. Again, all our ears are different. Try them out, it's good that they included them as it can give you some better passive noise isolation. But for me, using the silicone ear tips, I got the same passive noise isolation as the foam ear tips. Now, speaking of noise isolation, that's probably gonna be the second most important question you're asking. How well do these block out sounds and especially snoring? Now, just going off the seal of the ear tips alone, so the passive noise isolation, it's okay. It's not going to block out that much sound. Unless you use the memory foam, it might block out slightly more. So the passive isolation will just slightly reduce some like distant chatter. If there's like a fan on in your room, if someone's snoring next to you, the passive noise isolation won't work that well. But you can just turn on the active noise cancelling with a double tap on the right earbud, and now those sounds are going to get blocked out slightly more. This is where distant chatter, like a fan or a fridge on in the distance, is almost now getting completely blocked out. And I also tested out the noise cancelling on an actual flight the other day, and I was honestly very impressed. They advertised 30 decibels of noise cancelling, which is on the lower side, but it was actually quite close to my AirPods Pro 2. So they do a very good job at blocking out low frequencies. The high frequency hiss sound of the engine didn't get blocked out as well, but I was pretty impressed. And snoring is going to get blocked out slightly better with the noise cancelling, but it's still going to come through. What can help almost completely block out snoring is a dynamic snore masking soundscapes. You do get 10 different soundscapes you can choose. The default is just like a rain soundscape. I also tried the Himalayan waterfall, but basically you get tons of options in there. So all these soundscapes are designed to play at a similar frequency to snoring. So basically the soundscape will block out the snoring because it's going to take over the sound of snoring. This can also be improved with the option to turn on dynamic snore masking. So this works alongside with the case, which actually has a microphone built in. So when that microphone will pick up snoring, it's automatically going to start to increase the volume of the soundscape slightly, but it also adds in this kind of whooshing sound that sounds like wind blowing, but that's almost going to completely block out snoring. Now I tried this out when sleeping. The only issue is I snore when I sleep. So when I would start snoring, it kind of introduced the sound, and then it actually woke me up because naturally I wouldn't hear the sound when I'm snoring, so my brain's not used to it. Either way, I still tested it out in like a simulated snoring sound effect on my computer. So to give you a bit of a demonstration, chuck on some earbuds or some headphones, just to give you a bit of a simulated experience of all the differences between the passive noise isolation, the noise cancelling, and how the dynamic snore masking works. So we've got some fan noise and some snoring. Now I'm going to put the earbud on the microphone. This is a passive noise isolation. Now this is the passive noise isolation. Noise cancelling is on. So there you go. Hopefully that kind of gives you a rough idea of how well it's going to block out noise. And another great thing about this dynamic snore masking and soundscapes is that it actually saves to the earbud. So you can use this feature without your earbuds being connected to your phone. You can change this setting in the app or just by double tapping on the left earbud. This allows you to switch between local mode, which is whatever soundscape you have saved on the earbuds. And then there's Bluetooth mode where the buds work like a regular earbud. So you have those 10 soundscapes there, but you also have the option to create your own custom kind of soundscape where you can layer up to 3 sounds. You have rain in there, like train noise. You can even add a spaceship in there. You can adjust the volume of each sound and save that to the earbud as well. Keep in mind though, you can only save one soundscape to the earbuds, whether it's one of the 10 soundscapes included or your own custom soundscape. And when you're in this local mode, you can still adjust the volume of the soundscape without the buds being connected to your phone. So you can just triple tap on the right earbud to increase volume and triple tap on the left earbud to decrease volume. You also have the option to customize the controls in the app and add play pause in there and a couple other options. But I think those 4 options there are going to be the main ones that you use. Now you are limited to just a double tap and a triple tap, and you also need to press quite firmly on the controls to make sure they activate. But the reason Soundcore chose this is to reduce the chance of accidentally tapping the earbuds throughout the night and changing settings. So a smart move there. So that's local mode, but when you use Bluetooth mode, you basically use the earbuds regularly. You can play whatever music you want on Spotify, any podcasts or videos, or you can use Soundcore's Brainwave audio, which is basically like binaural beats. Binaural beats basically play at different frequency in your left and right ear, and studies show this can help reduce anxiety and help you fall asleep. This is what it sounds like. I'll just kind of play it in the background here. It's basically like relaxing music. So Starry Sky is my favorite. You also have an ocean wave, which kind of just sounds like an ocean. And there's also a forest one, which I wasn't a huge fan of because it was quite repetitive with like birds chirping in my left ear. I didn't really like it, but that could just be me. You can also customize the sound of the binaural beats. You have some kind of EQ settings in there. You can change like the atmosphere, the density, and how wide the sound is. There's also a spatial audio option, which didn't really change the sound too much for me. Maybe opened up the soundstage slightly, but not a huge difference. You can also choose to blend in 5 elements to the soundscape. The first one is the singing bowl, which sounds quite nice. There's a wooden click sound, which is just like a consistent clicking sound, which will drive me crazy, but you might like it. There's also a Guchin instrument, which sounded super distracting for me. It'll just play like a random note, so not my cup of tea there either. You've also got bubble sound effects and a rain sound effect you can add in. You're also able to layer all of these in if you like, except for the bubble and the rain, because they recommend they don't really work together. Now, when you go to sleep with the Bluetooth mode on, you have the option so that when you fall asleep, it will stop playing audio completely, so you won't hear anything once you're asleep. Or you can choose to turn the buds into local mode and it will play the dynamic snore masking or whatever soundscape you have saved to the earbuds. And the buds are able to detect when you fall asleep because there's also sleep tracking built into the earbuds. And your sleep will get tracked whether you're in Bluetooth mode or local mode. So here you can set up your soundscape if you want to put one of those on, and you can also set an alarm to play on the earbuds. So if you're sleeping next to someone, only you're going to hear the alarm. You can adjust the volume of the alarm. I had it on the lower side, but it is still an alarm that will start quiet, and then the longer the alarm rings out, it will slowly increase in volume. So it's not going to be too like dramatic of an alarm. Now, in terms of the sleep tracking, like I'm no sleep tracking expert. I have been using Sleep Cycle for about 10 years, but that uses the actual microphone on my phone, and I'm always sleeping next to my girlfriend, so it's not very accurate in terms of that. So I think these could be more accurate if you are using something like Sleep Cycle, because it's only going to track your own movement. And you do get a pretty solid sleep report. You can see all your sleep stages and they have some information to see what the averages are. There's also sleep movement, so you can see how much you move when you sleep, and you also get a sleep score at the top of the page there. So as you can see, some solid sleeping features there, but having all these features doesn't really matter if the buds are just going to like die whilst you're sleeping. So the battery life here is very solid. Soundcore advertised 9 hours on the buds with noise cancelling off and 45 hours in total with the case. They also advertised 6.5 hours with noise cancelling on. So that's likely not enough for a full night of sleep. But in my experience, I would have noise cancelling on the entire night. And since I would normally play music and then when I fall asleep, it will stop playing music, I found I had about 20% battery left in the morning. So it was enough for a full night of sleep. If you wanted to have noise cancelling on the entire night and have music playing at the same time, the buds might not survive. But you can have it set up to turn noise cancelling off when you fall asleep and then only use the dynamic snore masking soundscapes. So you should have enough battery and then still block out snoring if that is your objective. And that's my only real complaint with these buds, is that since there are so many features, it is a little bit confusing at first of like what is actually doing what. Like with the automatic sleep mode, the dynamic snore masking, you need to make sure that's turned on or you won't get that whooshing sound effect. And I think the way the features are explained in the app could be a little more straightforward, but hopefully this video helps explain it a little bit. Another small complaint is the lack of EQ customization. I thought for a soundcore bud, they would just add it in there, but it's not a huge issue. But you do get some smaller extras when it comes to customization in the app. So you get heaps of prompt tone settings, so you can turn them all off so you'll never hear anything get prompted to you. But you can also change the default mode of the earbuds. So every time you take the buds out of the case, you can set it to automatically turn on to local mode or Bluetooth mode. So overall, this is just a decked out sleep earbud. You're gonna get everything you need to help you fall asleep and stay asleep and block out people that snore. Like myself. Sorry people that need to deal with snorers. But again, for more information on the buds and to sign up on Kickstarter, check out my links down below. And for more on Soundcore, check out my Liberty 5 review right here, where I normally do it, or is it there? Here. So check that out, stay picky, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.